Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CCISO Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. We welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CSO Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. Implementing security controls is the bridge between design and protection. Once controls have been selected and designed, they must be implemented in a way that ensures they operate as intended across technical, administrative, and physical domains. The implementation process begins with careful planning. The CISO and their team must translate abstract control requirements into concrete actions. This involves creating actionable implementation plans that include timelines, resources, milestones, and success criteria. Dependencies must be identified up front. These may include technology platforms, approval workflows, cross-functional support, or budget allocation. Prioritization is key. Controls that address high-risk issues or urgent compliance gaps should be implemented first. Each control must have a clear objective and a defined measure of success. These criteria guide testing and future assurance activities. Security control implementation must also be embedded in broader project roadmaps. Whether the organization is migrating to the cloud, adopting new systems, or upgrading infrastructure, control implementation must be planned alongside these initiatives to avoid delays and maximize efficiency. Engaging stakeholders early and maintaining buy-in throughout the implementation process is essential. Security does not operate in a vacuum, and most controls affect other teams and processes. Collaboration with IT, operations, human resources, and legal teams ensures that implementation plans align with organizational needs and constraints. Clear communication helps demystify the purpose, scope, and expected impact of the controls. When stakeholders understand the why, they are more likely to cooperate and assist. It is also important to address concerns about disruption, usability, and change fatigue. Some controls, especially those that affect user access or system availability, may create resistance if not introduced carefully. Executive sponsorship is critical to success. Endorsement from senior leadership signals the importance of the controls and supports alignment across the enterprise. Establishing formal feedback loops allows stakeholders to report challenges, suggest adjustments, and support operational feasibility. These channels also help refine controls post-implementation and build continuous improvement into the security program. Technical implementation requires precise execution and coordination. Configuration management tools help ensure consistency, particularly in large or complex environments. These tools can apply standardized security baselines across servers, workstations, and network devices. Secure baseline templates, such as those defined in CIS benchmarks or DISA STIGs, offer practical starting points that can be tailored to organizational needs. Controls must also be integrated into system development lifecycles. In DevSecOps environments, this means embedding controls into build pipelines and infrastructure as code. Access controls should reflect the principle of least privilege and be tied to user roles and responsibilities. Technical teams must also validate that controls are interoperable with existing applications and infrastructure. A poorly tested control may conflict with legacy systems or create service disruptions. Pilot testing and detailed interoperability assessments reduce the risk of negative side effects and ensure smoother rollouts across environments. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Administrative and physical controls require coordinated deployment. Awareness training, onboarding briefings, and written procedures form the core of administrative control execution. These help ensure that policies are not only documented but actively understood and followed. Policy compliance can be enforced during onboarding through attestations and periodic revalidation. For physical controls, collaboration with facilities management is crucial. Implementing badge access, security cameras, and zoning restrictions must be aligned with HR procedures, emergency plans, and visitor policies. Once implemented, physical access should be logged and monitored. These logs must be reviewed to detect violations or anomalies and retained in accordance with retention policies. Administrative controls often support technical controls. For instance, a policy requiring encrypted portable devices is reinforced by user training, asset tracking, and technical enforcement mechanisms. The CCISO must ensure that these layers are mutually reinforcing and well-coordinated. Phased implementation allows organizations to deploy controls incrementally, reducing disruption and enabling more effective testing. A limited rollout or pilot deployment can reveal unintended consequences and provide a safe environment to validate the control's function. Change control procedures must be followed, including risk assessments, approval workflows, and documentation. These processes ensure that changes are introduced in a controlled manner and can be reversed if necessary. Communication with users is essential throughout the process. End users must be informed of what is changing, why it matters, and how it will affect their day-to-day responsibilities. Having fallback plans and rollback options helps maintain confidence and reduces resistance. Flexibility in scheduling is also important. If early testing reveals issues, timelines should be adjusted to allow for remediation and retraining. Rigid implementation schedules that ignore operational readiness often result in failure or rework. The CCISO must oversee this process, ensuring that the pace of control deployment matches the organization's capacity to adapt. Once controls are implemented, monitoring and logging become critical. Controls must generate logs and telemetry that confirm their operation. This data supports both real-time alerting and long-term assurance. Integration with SIEM platforms enables centralized monitoring and correlation of control activities. Dashboards can display control status, event trends, and threshold violations. These visualizations support governance reporting and help demonstrate compliance. Control-specific thresholds must be tuned to reflect normal operational behavior. Overly sensitive controls may generate too many alerts, while weak thresholds may miss serious incidents. Audit trails must be tamper-resistant and retained in accordance with policy. This includes system logs, access records, and configuration histories. These records support investigations, audit readiness, and evidence-based reporting. Mapping log data to control objectives creates a direct link between implementation and assurance. This mapping also supports continuous control validation and simplifies communication with auditors and executive stakeholders. Documentation is an essential part of control implementation. Every control must be documented clearly and consistently. This includes configuration details, approved exceptions, system dependencies, and implementation decisions. Documentation must also include references to policies, risk register entries, and framework alignment. Evidence must be maintained to support audit and certification needs. These screenshots, log extracts, and test results are commonly used to demonstrate that a control is operational. Control documentation should also identify control owners and contributors. Version control is essential to track changes over time and to support future reviews. Documentation must be accessible to authorized users and integrated into broader system and security documentation repositories. Without accurate records, controls may be assumed to exist without evidence. This creates audit risk and undermines executive assurance. Documentation also helps with staff turnover and knowledge transfer. When staff change roles, having complete and accessible control documentation reduces learning curves and helps maintain consistency. Implementing security controls often comes with challenges that require executive attention. Resource limitations can slow down deployment or prevent full coverage. Prioritizing controls and automating implementation where possible can help overcome these constraints. Legacy systems are another challenge. Older systems may not support modern controls, requiring the use of compensating controls or redesign of workflows. Cultural resistance is also a real concern. Controls that are perceived as inconvenient or unnecessary may be bypassed or sabotaged. The CCISO must manage this resistance through communication, training, and executive support. Operational disruptions may occur during implementation, especially if changes are not properly tested. False positives and excessive alerts can reduce confidence in new controls and lead to alert fatigue. Continuous tracking of implementation issues and adjustment of configurations is necessary after rollout. A successful implementation includes not just technical deployment, but operational integration, user acceptance, and leadership oversight. After controls are implemented, a formal post-implementation review is essential. This review evaluates whether the control is functioning as intended and whether it meets regulatory and organizational requirements. Testing should confirm technical performance and alignment with control objectives. Feedback from users and stakeholders helps assess usability and identify friction points. If users are struggling to work with the control, tuning or retraining may be needed. Controls should also be reviewed against any framework or compliance mandates to confirm full coverage. Any gaps must be addressed quickly and corrective actions must be documented. Post-implementation reviews should include sign-off by relevant stakeholders, including system owners, security teams, and compliance leads. These reviews support audit readiness and provide closure to the implementation phase. Where appropriate, results should be recorded in control matrices or GRC platforms to update the organization's overall control landscape and risk posture. On the CCISO exam, candidates must understand the process of implementing both technical and procedural controls. Scenario-based questions may present challenges related to stakeholder resistance, limited resources, or conflicting priorities. Candidates must demonstrate the ability to plan implementation, manage communication, and validate effectiveness. Documentation, ownership, and validation are commonly tested topics. The exam also focuses on the CISO's role in overseeing enterprise-wide control execution and ensuring alignment with business and compliance goals. Questions may ask how to handle control exceptions, integrate controls into DevSecOps, or document evidence for audits. Understanding organizational dynamics and cultural barriers to implementation is critical. The exam tests not just technical skill but leadership judgment, planning, and execution ability, traits that define effective security leaders. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber CCISO Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.